know, more than 60 Democrats either boycotted or skipped the president's inauguration. What kind of reception do you think the president will get tomorrow evening from Democrats in the House and the Senate when he gives his joint address?
Well, I hope a very robust and applause-filled reception.
President Trump's address to Congress tomorrow night is being billed by the White House as optimistic, but the president's dark inauguration speech is still fresh in everyone's mind. Joining me now, MSNBC contributor Charlie Sykes, editor of Right, Wisconsin, and Jason Johnson, politics editor of The Root, author of Political Consultants and Campaigns, One Day to Sell. Jason, let me start with you. You know, I forgot who said this. Someone said that there's going to be a huge amount of actual political incentive for some House Democrat to have their own Joe Wilson moment tomorrow night because fevers are very pitched. There is tremendous desire on the part of the Democratic base for outward signs of resistance. What are you expecting?
Well, here's the thing, Chris. If someone on the Democratic side decides they're going to go at Trump, this is not Barack Obama. This is not George Bush. Trump was likely to respond and go all Remy Ma on them and just like attack the person for 7 minutes. Like you got to be really careful if you go after Donald Trump. He can spit. So I think the Democrats will be wiser to just make sure that they boo when necessary, that they don't stand when he says certain things, and leave their comments to afterwards. Because I don't think you want to get into a battle with Trump when he's in his element on national television.
Charlie, this is going to be a speech. I continue to be fascinated by the weird hybrid of sort of Paul Ryan, Mike Pence Republicanism and the Bannon, Stephen Miller stuff. What ratio are you expecting in this speech tomorrow?
I don't know. By the way, your first question, Stephen Bannon right now is hanging upside down in a closet somewhere, hoping that some Democrat is going to go too far because Trump feeds on the overreaction. Yes. But, you know, I remember about a year ago talking to some members of Congress who had met with then nominee Donald Trump, and they were amazed by how little he understood the whole concept of Article 1 of the Constitution and the specific powers of Congress. I think a lot of them are going to be sitting there, you know, wanting to know, okay, is Donald Trump actually going to be talking to us? Is he going to be working with us? Is he looking to provide us guidance? Is he going to cut our tires? Is he going to kneecap us on all of this? Because right now we're in this very interesting moment where, you know, the president is going to try to showcase all the things he's done, except there's no legislation. There's no Obamacare repeal. There's no infrastructure package. There is no tax reform, not just not passed, not even proposed.
There's not even a one. We should just be clear. There's not a one-sheeter. Right. There's not an index card. There's not 3 bullets to put on a full screen on my show to say this is what the White House is proposing.
And as a result, all of these congressional Republicans are kind of holding their fire. Now, they're being pounded at the town hall meetings, but they can't turn around and say, well, this is what we plan to do, because apparently they haven't got the call from the White House yet.
Yeah, and that, Jason, I mean, there's 2 things I wonder about here, right, is how programmatic this is. Do they have the wherewithal? I mean, there's something sort of vaguely comical about the idea of, you know, Bill Clinton was obviously famous for these sort of long and involved, granular, wonky speeches, like some Donald Trump version of that about, like, risk corridors and high-risk pools. And, I mean, that just seems, like, completely off the table, right?
Yeah, it's not likely. Look, Trump is at sort of a Schoolhouse Rock level, whereas Clinton and Obama were sort of at dissertation level. I mean, I believe the 11 points that the Republicans have put out now, he's going to talk about America, he's going to talk about making the nation safe, he's going to talk about, you know, revitalizing jobs and infrastructure. I think it's going to be a general campaign speech because as of right now, it doesn't appear that Donald Trump can give anything other than a campaign speech. And I think at some point, maybe not tomorrow night, maybe not in a week, but at some point, Congress is going to get tired of that, Republicans and Democrats, because they need an actual plan, not just more commercials.
Well, that's the point.
Nobody knew. Nobody knew.
Here's the thing, Charlie, right? Like, most speeches are performance, right? They're not really acts, right? So usually it's rhetoric, right? So even when President Obama got up in that speech back in 2009, he was defending a legislative process that had been ongoing for 6 months. There's actually some thing that has to be done tomorrow night, it seems programmatically for me, from the president if he wants to kickstart any kind of legislative agenda.
Yes, and he wants to kickstart it, but the problem is there's no indication that he's about to roll something out. I mean, the fact that today, you know, he's saying nobody had any idea how complicated healthcare was. Really, nobody. Here's a guy who's been saying how easy it was going to be, and any minute now. Well, you can imagine how that played with the Mike Pences and the, you know, and the Paul Ryans of the world on this date to hear the president saying, "Whoa, who knew this was going to be this complicated?" So he's got to make up his mind on all of this because, again, the theme is going to be, you know, the time for rhetoric is done. We now need to act. Okay, Mr. President, where's the beef? Where are the details? Have you actually made up your mind? And there are these reports that Steve Bannon, you know, is now somewhat reluctant, concerned about the political price of actually doing something meaningful with Obamacare, which has got to really, you know, ramp up the anxiety among House and Senate Republicans.
Plus, I want to play this clip of Richard Burr. We played it earlier in the show, but I think it's so indicative of a certain kind of thing that's happening on Congress. Take a look at Richard Burr not answering questions about the Russia investigation.
What's your reaction to the concerns from the vice chair of the Intelligence Committee?
Was it appropriate for you to talk to reporters about this?
You guys have a great night.
Jason, they are taking politically bullets for him right now, and that's the other subtext of tomorrow night.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this, you know, look, every Republican member of Congress right now is saying nothing to see here like the Naked Gun, where there's fireworks and everything going on in the background when it comes to Russia. And what they really need tomorrow, if there's one thing the president can do, he can say, I will have your back. I will not take advantage of you. I won't attack you, and I will understand this process. Because they're defending him on the wall.
Right.
They're defending him on the immigration. They're defending him on Russia. And at some point, they are the ones facing the consequences. They're not hiding out in Washington. He needs to show Republicans he supports them.
Because he's figured out how to be successful while 40% of people like him. That's not true of anyone else. Charlie Sykes and Jason Johnson, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That is all in for this evening. The Rachel